Hello friends, today again I am before you to discuss the answer of yesterday's question. As you remember, yesterday we gave a theoretical question. So now today we will be discussing that and try to figure out what can be the model answer for this. The question was, a morally upright officer must also be emotionally intelligent. Critically discuss this statement. Now, in this question, the main line which has been given is a morally upright officer must also be emotionally intelligent. But then the very significant second line is critically discuss this statement, which means that whether this line is or the sentence which has been given, that is a morally upright officer must also be emotionally intelligent, whether this is correct or not correct. If it is correct, to what extent it is correct? If it's not correct, then to what extent it is not correct? So basically, you have to do a critical analysis of this. It's not a simple thing that only straight away you say, yes, morally upright officer must also be emotionally intelligent and try to prove that. That maybe this is not the requirement of this question. This question requires that if it is required, then you say yes. If it's not required, you say no. And if there is something somewhere in between that to some extent it's required, to some extent it's not required, then accordingly you have to basically discuss in the question and examine the whole statement. With this introduction, let us start. Now, moral uprightness, commitment to honesty, integrity, and justice is fundamental to public service. So now there are two basically qualities which have been mentioned in this. One is moral uprightness, that is morally upright officer, and second is emotionally intelligent officer. So first, these two we will try to distinguish what are these two and what actually these two means in an officer, what these two means basically, and then to what extent both are required or how it has to be balanced, both qualities needs to be balanced. So moral uprightness means commitment to honesty, integrity, and justice. Now, this is anyway very, very important for any civil servant, any public service. However, in emotionally charged and diverse governance context, ethical intent alone may not suffice. So, what we are trying to say, yes, morally upright officer is required or moral uprightness is required, but in certain situations, complex situations, it itself may not be sufficient. Now, we are now quoting Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence, that is EI, which means self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social skills, adds the ability to apply moral values with sensitivity and tact. So, what we are trying to say in this paragraph, very important thing that yes, moral uprightness is important, but yes, if that officer is emotionally intelligent also, then in complex situations, for example, emotionally charged situations or diverse governance contexts, he will be able to apply moral values with sensitivity and tact. So sensitivity and tact will come from emotional intelligence. Application of moral values like honesty, integrity, justice, etc., will be anyway uh, will coming from the moral uprightness. So this is what we are trying to say in first paragraph. Now, let us see how we can discuss the whole thing in an example also. An officer may be ethically sound, yet emotionally rigid or tone deaf, because he is not able to hear the emotions of the public or the vulnerable groups or the groups which are adversely affected. So he is emotionally rigid and tone deaf. He is not able to listen. He is deaf to their emotions, basically. For instance, blunt enforcement of rules without empathy can alienate vulnerable citizens. This is alienation of vulnerable citizens is possible, as seen in mishandled eviction drives or insensitive lockdowns while enforcing COVID-19. You see, migrant workers, they walked kilometers, hundreds of kilometers, they walked, some walked without even food, shelter, water, etc. So all those problems were there. So this is the lack of emotional intelligence. The ethically upright officer may uphold legality but fail to uphold dignity, a key constitutional value. So again, legality and ethicality is one thing, but upholding dignity of the vulnerable groups is important, and it comes from emotional intelligence. However, now in second paragraph, we are trying to figure out third paragraph, some negative points also, because in the question itself, it has been written critically examine. So critically examine doesn't mean that only all positive things you need to write. So you have to say what are their drawbacks also, this whole union, that is emotional intelligence and moral uprightness. What are the drawbacks of the union of these two? However, EI is not infallible. Excessive emotional involvement may cloud judgment or lead to compromise in rule-based decisions. This is again a problem. So excessive emotional involvement may cloud judgment or lead to compromise. An empathetic officer might hesitate to take strict action when required. This is a problem with emotions. So highly emotional officer will or empathetic officer may face problem when strict action is required. Hence, EI must be guided by moral reasoning to avoid emotional appeasement or bias. So this is again a very, very important conclusion. Now, Aristotle's concept of phronesis, that is practical wisdom, reflects the need to balance reason and emotion. So this is again a very important quote from Aristotle we are bringing, that reason and emotion needs to balance. And this is what is meant by balancing moral uprightness on the one hand and emotional intelligence on the other. Mahatma Gandhi also believed that, we are quoting Mahatma Gandhi also, that ethical action must be rooted in both conscience and compassion. Thus, while EI enhances moral action, it cannot replace moral conviction. The ideal public servant harmonizes ethical integrity with emotional acumen, ensuring governance that is both just and humane. So basically, conclusion is that there has to be a balance of the two. Neither emotions should be exceed nor it should be less. So if balance is there, perhaps the civil servant will be able to do better public service than required. Now this completes the model answer for studies question. Now we'll take up a case study and we'll try to answer it tomorrow. The case study which we are going to take up tomorrow is like this. This is with regard to electrical vehicles and e-waste dumping. An EV startup disposes batteries illegally in rural ponds. They claim lack of guidelines. What regulatory and ethical actions do you take? Now, I keep on telling, here I am giving only 2-line case study, but this can be elaborated in half a page. And accordingly, you can assume that. But the crux which we need to reply, crux of the case study is this only. So, electrical and EV startup disposes batteries illegally in a rural ponds. They claim lack of guidelines. What regulatory and ethical actions do you take? Now, this case study will take up for discussion tomorrow, and we'll try to see what can be the model answer for this. Now, one more thing I just want to request all of you. Now, if you want me to take any other case study or any question from your side, which I can discuss here, please do mention in the comment section of this video, or you can send a mail to me also. Mail is already there in description of this YouTube channel. So from there you can mail it, or you can write in comment section. I will take it from there also. So whether it is case study or any theoretical question, if you want that I should take up in my future videos, I will definitely try. So that also you can mention. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Tomorrow again we'll meet for discussion of the case study which I am just now told you. Thank you one and all.